Hello, my name's Simon Camby and I'm the Director of Education at Cognito, and I'm here today at the Festival of Education, which is the largest gathering of educators in the UK, and this year there are over 4,000 teachers and leaders here. And I'm joined today by Barnaby Lenon, who is the Chair of the Independent School Council, so thank you ever so much for giving your time, really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
And you've got this fantastic position of seeing the whole of the independent world in this country. So I just wonder if you could just give me a sense of what you see the role of independent education being today.
Okay, well, I mean, the role is to provide an education that parents want and they can't necessarily find in the state sector. That, in simple terms, is the role. But I think there are a lot of independent schools that are doing things that are in short supply in the state sector. And then there's the fact that because independent schools charge fees, they often have 2 or 3 times as much to spend per pupil than a state school. And I mean, we would feel that actually state schools were underfunded, but in an independent school, a parent is going to get, smaller classes, a greater range of subjects, particularly at secondary level, more extracurricular activity. And so they're getting something for their money that they can't easily find in the state sector. And then finally, there's something about being independent from the government, that's what it really means, for us to make our own decisions on the basis of what is in the best interests of our pupils and that our parents want. That's what we can do.
I know recently you've spoken about achievement for all students, for all children in the system. I wonder if you could just share some thoughts around what you mean by that?
Yeah, so what's on my mind is a couple of things really. I think first of all, the fact that in the country generally, achievement tends to be always determined, judged in terms of exam results and university entrance. Those who do well in their GCSEs are going to go on and take A-levels and go to university, and the half who don't. And so what I'm arguing is that the 50% who don't do particularly well maybe at GCSE, who maybe have interests other than academic, as a country, we need to be providing more for those who are best following a non-academic route. And as a society, we need to be appreciating the tremendous contribution of those who do those jobs which don't require a university degree.
At the festival this year, Wellbeing is a major strand, and Cognito has curated the Wellbeing Summit. We know within our family of schools around the world that wellbeing is a really big issue for parents and for teachers. I wonder just what your thoughts are as somebody that sees the whole of the independent system.
I think, first of all, independent schools these days all take wellbeing seriously. Secondly, they have the big advantage of smaller class sizes, so the teacher is much more likely to be able to identify a child who's struggling, let's say, and so teachers have the time to take children aside and deal with them individually, and that's the key thing. I mean, it's all very well identifying a pupil who needs help, but it's finding the time to speak to them that really matters, and independent schools do have more of that.
So it's really about the time and the knowledge of the individual.
Yeah. So the thing which really interests me about well-being is that there's no doubt that the measures of mental ill health, let's say, amongst particularly young girls, 14, 15-year-old girls, is measurably worse now than it was 15 years ago. And I don't think that's just an increase in reporting. So for me, the challenge is for everyone to identify what the causes of that decline might be so that we can readily deal with it. So really good research, and then schools acting on it in a forthright way.
So using evidence, but also presumably working in partnership with parents. If you were to give parents any advice around well-being, what would it be?
So I would say to parents 2 things. First of all, if you possibly can, please stay together. And secondly, don't row with your teenage children so much that you lose the ability to communicate with them. Don't take their horrible, moody presence so seriously that you lose that ability to have contact with them. At Harrow, I actually gave parenting lessons to those of my parents who were willing to succumb to this, in the art of retaining the ability to converse with your difficult teenage son or daughter. And it was very effective.
So keeping the connection, keeping the
Yeah,
relationship.
don't do, as some parents do, end up constantly nagging or arguing with their children. Think about maintaining a respectful and hopefully happy relationship during that just very difficult period, you know, between 13 and 16. Because if you can do that, then they come out at the end of that tunnel and they're happy and probably successful young adults. So that's a sort of parenting tip.
So it sounds to me like that's a conversation that you've had many, many times.
Yes, absolutely.
Barnaby, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Really appreciate your time and I really appreciate your insights into the system. Thank you.
Pleasure.